Hey everybody, Amy Torres here, hosting Pure Presence Live with my dear co-host, Bill Free.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pure Presence Live. We're so happy to join with you today. And Amy, man, I just love this show with you. We have 5 shows left. This one and
Every show is
four,
getting
I think.
sweeter, and we
Yeah,
have 5 shows left. So it's the countdown, five,
yeah,
four, three, two, one. And we hope that you're with us for the next 5 weeks, including today. It's just gotten more conversational and even more experiential, I feel, as we spontaneously pop into the peace of God experience throughout the show and not just at the end of the show.
yeah, yeah. It's great. So I just love it. And hello, Henrik. Glad to see you. And everyone else, welcome to the show. And
You know,
Amy, I uploaded our show from 2 weeks ago last night, and I added a little background music with the meditation last week. So
nice. I
it's
want to hear that.
yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think it's really nice.
Um, you have, oh my God, I'm blanking out on his name. We've been using the music from Who's the Musician around
Uh,
our peace of God experience.
oh,
Isn't that
that was Victor Wooten.
right? You
Victor
guys, did
Wooten.
you
Yeah.
know that Bill is friendly with Victor Wooten and has gotten his permission to use his music as the buffer around our experiential piece?
Yeah, actually, that came from Jimmy Twyman. Actually, it's Victor Wooten on Jimmy Twyman's track.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. Yeah, and I love both of those guys. In fact, yesterday it's funny, Amy. I did a blog, a video blog that comes out tomorrow. That's called "Why Wait for Heaven," and I'm talking on this blog, and all of a sudden I start singing. It was really funny, like it's Oman and Shanti. Why wait for heaven? Why wait for heaven? Heaven is in you, and you are at home.
Hmm.
Yeah,
If I knew it, I would have chimed in.
it's I just that's one of the first course songs that came to me 10 years ago.
Mm.
I got someone mailed the CD to me from Oman and Shanti. I think they were like the first course musicians, and they just have this beautiful. They're not around anymore. You can find their music uh, on Amazon. You can find one CD of their music, and I think it's called Remember.
Wow,
And
because Moji Music also has a beautiful piece called Remember by Omkara. Uh, Music is such a powerful force when it comes to the awakening process. There's so many course musicians now who are adding music to the study and experience of A Course in Miracles. And one who I love is Carol Heffler. I think her CD is called uh, You Could See Peace instead of this. Certainly there's a cut on there. You could see peace
good
instead
one.
of this, or I could see peace instead of this. And
Yes,
it's kind of like a samba, a Latin. It's almost like a cha-cha. It's a great CD. Carol Heffler, you guys.
yes, good, good. I'll have to look her up. I haven't heard her yet.
Yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
can include links when this becomes our Unity radio show on Friday. We put show notes underneath, and
Oh, that's a good idea.
we include links to things we've made reference to. So you guys, you can always pop over there to our Pure Presence show on Unity to get links.
Cool, cool. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Nancy and Karen and Barbara, Raymond. Hey, Suzette. Welcome, everyone. And from all over the
Welcome.
world, actually. Look at that.
Oh,
From
Suzette
California
uses
to
their
Sweden.
CD
Pardon me?
from California to Sweden.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, Ontario, Canada as well.
Nice. That's
Uh,
closer to me.
Suzette says that she has their CD and loves it.
Oh, good, good. Is that Oman and Shanti's CD, Suzette? Wow. Yeah, I love those guys. And also, James Twyman has a song on workbook lesson 188. His is "The Peace of God is shining in me now." So, a variation on that same workbook lesson. And I have to tell you, this workbook lesson that we're covering today and that we started covering last week is one of the most powerful workbook lessons that I know of in the course, because it identifies with the light. It identifies with not only the light that we are, the peace that we are, but also I love the expression and the feeling that comes from this workbook lesson that the peace of God is shining in me now. It's like shining. And and then the description that comes with that, what Jesus is telling us in the course, the description of what happens when we acknowledge that light and when we be that light, it like goes around the universe, connecting with all the beings. It connects with all the minds that are one. It connects with all of us and then comes back to us.
I just feel quieter and quieter while you speak. This is what happens, Bill, when you get on fire and you're very aligned, then I grow more and more still. And it actually becomes difficult to talk because I'm feeling so good. And I'm hoping you guys can feel this too. The way that I experience it these days, what you just described, Bill, is as an antenna. So, having a yoga background and being drawn to yoga had something to do with Kundalini energy, moving up the spine, and just using the spine for the Holy Spirit's purpose means that the body is now used as a communication link. So
yeah,
this antenna, as we shift to being an antenna, then the shining, the electricity, the light that is a light beyond this world, beyond what we know as light, we discover that this antenna is the same antenna, even though we all seem to have a separate spinal column.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel, the course describes that, that the course describes that you recognize your evolution. You recognize your awareness of love's presence as the course unfolds in your experience. And it feels like the light is just, it's like, it feels like the light is more of a knowing presence and not so much. I used to think that light was, like light, like sunlight. And now I'm understanding this light to be a loving presence that not only I am, but also this is the loving presence that you are. This is the loving presence that God is. And this is why God can't possibly be separate from me. And as I'm experiencing this loving presence of light, and it's really only coming to me as an understanding and also now an experience of the loving light of pure presence, the loving light of what God is and what you are and what every living thing is and what everyone in this room is, everyone in the universe. Everything is this light.
And this recognition that you're describing so well, as I allow and embrace your describing of this with a capital T, this, I can feel my breath just gets fuller and deeper and wider. I don't know if you guys notice, but I can feel my whole rib cage expanding, and it's amazing because it's symbolic life energy, light, life. It's the same thing. I do want to address a question that Ray just asked, Raymond. isn't Kundalini yoga a little dangerous? Because I was just talking about the Kundalini, and you could say this light moving up the spine. So, Raymond, my understanding of Kundalini is, first of all, there are different ways to approach an actual Kundalini practice. And because this is the world of duality, people describe Kundalini in different ways. So some people say that Kundalini energy can rise from your tailbone all the way up your spine and out, through the top of the crown chakra. And yes, if you were to only focus on Kundalini yoga, it is a transcendent practice. And for people who tend to be nervous and anxious, it can be way too much upward energy without enough grounding and without what my Sufi masters would call a descending meditation practice. There are descending practices like heart rhythm meditation, which I'm schooled in, where you connect with your heart organ and your energetic heart to really ground and be settled in order to be able to tolerate the natural transcendent energy that will have to arise just from grounding. It's like plants put their roots into the ground. The deeper the roots, the more naturally the plant grows towards the sun. But another way of addressing Kundalini is that Kundalini, it's kind of like when you go on a fast and you're fasting, let's say, just on juice and water, and then you may not feel well after a couple of days of fasting because you're detoxing. So it could seem to you like, oh, fasting is bad for me. I don't feel well when I fast. Actually, fasting is good for you, and you're ridding yourself of all these toxins. So for a few days, you're going to have flu-like symptoms, and you're going to feel, sleepy and tired and maybe nauseous. And all of that is the result of detoxing. So Kundalini energy could be seen as the energy which purifies. And so everything that can be felt from that process might be experienced as too much too soon, and then you would need to temper it. So I've often recommended to clients of mine who tend to be the anxious types, and I'm the anxious type, so we've been drawn to each other as opposed to very depressed types, that to go into a Kundalini yoga practice is probably not the right fit for them. But if you're depressed, it might really, start to burn off some, heavy gunk, and you still want to take it easy.
Well, I for one, I can only say that I've only noticed this light experience in my own experience in the last, I would say in the last year, where it's been like very present when we start talking about the topics of truth, whether it's in the course or if it's a conversation if it's with Rupert Spira, or if you and I, when you and I are talking, Amy, and we have an oming experience, it's like all of a sudden that light presence shows up, and it's like, I like this. This experience is pretty kind of nice right here. And then you realize that, oh, wow, the light shows up and it's you. And this is what we all have in common, is this light presence experience. And I don't know, for me, it just showed up in the last, where I've really been noticing it in the last year. Actually, even since you and I met.
Wow.
Yeah. And the course is showing up in a new way, for like when I see the peace of God is shining in you now, and then I connect with this shining, this light experience. It's like, oh wow, this is talking about me right now. This is talking about you. This is for us. This is our identity in God right here.
Yes. This is the purity in you, Bill, that that you glow this light. And when you put your hand on your heart, I always feel your all-inclusive love, that you're embodying this light, even when you didn't know it. And now that it's more evident to you. And I feel that you've lit me up too, that you and I definitely came together, in some God-driven purpose. And there's been a tremendous, maybe the word is healing or greater expansion in both our beings. Yes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's mutual. And it's where, this is interesting. There is a Bible verse, and I actually think there's a Course verse too, that says when two are gathered the Bible says in my name. I want to just say when two are gathered in the presence of Christ consciousness, because I don't think Jesus was trying to be, stand alone. He was talking about when two are gathered in the presence of Christ consciousness, which is the same thing that Bill and Helen did. When those two agreed and came into a shared purpose, they joined at the level of light, of presence, of beingness. And I feel that that's happened with us also as we're talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we could say when two are gathered in our name.
Yes.
See, Bill and I, this is why I always kind of tease you guys and say, I wish you could see the pre-show, because Bill and I have gone through stuff. And, of course, things are usually pretty smooth and nice on the surface and when we're talking to you. And there's hardly been any friction between us. But just the other day, as we're parting ways and moving into the next phase of whatever we're each called to do, I felt a little scared that what I was going to do next might in some way upset Bill. And I wrote to him and said, if this is upsetting to you, that I seem to be starting this new video blog, maybe you would call it, called The Only Meaningful Conversation, I'm available to process. So the funny thing, you guys, is that when I first wrote this email and shared the show with Bill, I was just so happy to share. And then by the time I finished writing the email, this guilty feeling came up. And so I surfaced, I'm willing to process. But it also was a generous feeling, because I was like, if you have any feelings about this, I'm here to hear them. I'm not hiding. So I sent it off to Bill, who then writes me back right away and says, this sounds great, and you're just being called to do your next thing. And I don't really understand why I would be upset. And it was huge for me, you guys. It was a huge thing, in that it was an excavation of something very old and subtle. This feeling of guilt that if I do my own thing, if I go my own way, that somebody will get hurt. And then when I offered that to Bill, he reflected my pure innocence back to me. So, even if it had gone the other way, even if Bill had said, yeah, I'm a little upset, I didn't expect this, I know that he and I would have processed it out, because we've done that a couple of times. And it's so harmonious to just have the room to just say, yeah, this is where I'm feeling the upset, and this is what's coming up for me, and this is an old trigger, and just owning everything. It's just incredibly healing and liberating.
Yeah. And you have to own it to release it. You must own your experience. You must own the feelings. And you can be superficial. You can say, no, it's no big deal. And you can hide it, but it'll be back and it'll be back maybe with a different messenger.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that if you do try to be spiritual and say it's no big deal, that in doing that, that's the subtlety of the ego, that it seems like you did a good thing, and yet you actually repress something, and it will come back with a different messenger if you don't sort it out with this one.
Yeah. We have a couple of questions, and before we get into the content, and I also want to say, I agree with Ray. Thanks for the explanation on the Kundalini, Amy.
Thank you, guys.
So we have a question here. It says, I want to see my brothers with love beyond the ego, but how does one deal with energy vampires, or am I projecting? I'll go first on this. Yes, you are projecting, and it's okay if you use it for the purpose of healing, which is why it's helpful. If you can just notice any energy that you have, someone is always giving you a reflection. It's a projection is an outside picture of an inner belief or perception. It doesn't have to mean that it's true, but if it's showing up out there and it's bringing you some energy, then really it's being given to you as a gift, so that you can really just notice the energy on it, put it in the light, and thank whatever the messenger is, whatever form it is. They're just bringing you a reflection of something that you can't see. I call it the iceberg effect, where it's the unconscious beliefs or guilt or just could be from other lifetimes, could be from anything, but it's yours. And when you have a desire of your heart I can choose peace instead of this, and you don't really need to go and say you need to clean that up, because when you clean it up here, it'll stop showing up out there after it's completely cleaned up. And you may clean it up here and still see some residual or some kind of a shadow of something that hasn't caught up yet. And you just stay in that total knowing that this has been healed, and you just choose peace instead of this. And then all of a sudden you'll realize, wow, that doesn't even show up anymore. That's my explanation.
And I'd like to add to that, I think that's a very pure explanation, and that sometimes the really pure explanations are intolerable because we're not there yet. So that would be, we have to know that what Bill said is true. And then because this is a very diverse dream, the form of understanding this can come up in different ways. So the common sense form is that if you were to take a gulp of sour milk, the minute it hit your mouth, you would know that the milk was bad and you would spit it out. So if you try to be nice with, an energy vampire and kind of swish that milk around your mouth and go, oh, this isn't so bad. You're lying to yourself, So
that's funny.
So, then you have to assess, I need to be in measured doses with this person. If this is a family member who I need to be with sometimes, to start to build better boundaries and to learn the lessons of guilt and innocence, that, there's usually a feeling that, but this other person needs me and there's no one else who can help them. And so cultivating faith that they have this light, this God within them and without them, that will care for them. If you disappear from the picture, if you die tomorrow, something will show up to care for that person. So starting to build in less time spent with the energy vampire. And then Mooji, for instance, and he's not the only spiritual master to say so, has acknowledged that sometimes there are forces, and that exorcisms are necessary. And that's pretty rare. But if that's your path, and you're going to learn from that path somehow, you will probably be drawn to somebody like Mooji, who will work in private with a person. And I haven't been there to see what happens, but he does some sort of exorcism or release process with that person. Now, I, as a psychotherapist, when I had a private practice, I found myself doing something similar with patients. I didn't think of it in religious terms or being an exorcist, but in the end, that's really what it was. And believe it or not, sometimes spontaneously, the client would start to make sounds that were very disturbing and even howling. And I was okay with that. And then I used to feel this old Tibetan master inside of me who would also start to make sounds. And the vibration was immense. Like when Bill and I Om, it was huge. oh, and it breaks up energy. And then sometimes I would drum spontaneously. And there are ways to break up energy, but it really depends on your path and tuning into your inner guidance to see, okay, what's going to happen now? Because going back to what Bill said, there's some projection, that either you can be, the blood sucker or the one whose blood is sucked, that there's something going on there, some deep belief that needs to be released and healed for you to rediscover that you're whole and that there's no danger.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved your explanation as well, Amy. And I just want to add to that what I've noticed that when we're in the environment of, let's just say, dark energy of the illusion, and we're finished with that particular lesson for ourselves, that we'll all of a sudden find that the players on the chessboard, they start to change, and no longer is that person even necessary for my for me to share my space with anymore. All of a sudden they got transferred, they moved, they died, I moved, or I'm not in that vicinity anymore, because the vibratory frequency that was similar, that I was holding maybe some part of it in the iceberg or in the belief system. Once that's cleared up, that thing that'll disappear, because there's no similar frequency to hold me into that experience.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you chimed in with that. And I've definitely experienced that. I think lots of us have. And I've also experienced having some of the same people remain in my life, and I start to see them very differently. So where I saw them as, energy vampires, let's say, for years and years and years, all of a sudden there's this greater compassion and this greater sense of safety in me. And now I just see them as needy, which is very different. It's not nearly as powerful or victim-y to just compassionately see someone else as needy, when before they were like raving narcissists. So that can happen too. But Bill is so right that people will just drop out of your life and you will just move into different spheres. Also, you guys, this new show that I mentioned, The Only Meaningful Conversation, the first one I released is with Vera de Chalembert. And she talks all about the divine feminine, Shekinah, and how God includes everything, including our brokenness and the darkness. So, it's a different language than the Course speaks. But if you're interested in the darkness, the shadow side, you may find that helpful. It's on YouTube.
Cool. Well, there's a few other questions. And the one that Suzette says that there's Myra, as a friend of mine says, there's no one out there. And that's actually true. And the other thing that's cool is that we're going to talk about some of this conversation we've been having right now. This workbook lesson at the end, if we get to the end of it, talks about these wandering thoughts come back into the light. These wandering dark thoughts, he even calls them shadows and dark thoughts. These wandering thoughts come back into the light they actually get reintegrated back into the thought that said let's see, I think it says just be gone or be away with you. It says we restore them to the holiness of their inheritance. So it's like Jesus talks about in this workbook lesson, paragraph 9. He says, we let the light within our minds first, I'll start with the top of paragraph 9. We practice coming nearer to the light in us today. We take our wandering thoughts and gently bring them back to where they fall in line with the thoughts we share with God. We will not let them stray. We let the light within our minds direct them to come home. We have betrayed them, ordering that they depart from us. But now we call them back and wash them clean of strange desires and disordered wishes. We restore them to the holiness of their inheritance.
We restore to them the holiness of their inheritance.
We restore to them, right. We restore to them the holiness of their inheritance. And that's an experience that we actually we're partaking of that experience consciously, and it's not something that's just flippantly. It's a devotion to this practice of being the light. Because we don't do, you guys, you all know, we don't do this for a hobby. This is a life devotion experience. And whenever I'm in distress or I'm troubled by, and usually it's going to show up in relationships. It's usually going to, because that's where everything shows up. And what I find myself to be the best thing is, I put my hand on my heart. I find myself getting quiet, and I love explanations like this, where I can look at those wandering thoughts. Now I can look at them not as like, or you see the story that's running in your head where you're talking to yourself about what you're going to say to somebody when you see them, because they said this and now you're going to say this back, and you've got this whole conversation going. But when you notice that you have that conversation going, oh man, you can come, you're just going to bring those wandering thoughts back into alignment of the presence of what you are, the light that you are. And you're healing yourself, you're healing your brother, you're healing those wandering thoughts. You're bringing everything back into recognition of the truth.
Yeah, the Course says somewhere, I read it very recently, that first comes healing, then comes wholeness. This is amazing, this paragraph you just read. It's as if I never saw it before. I'm having one of those Course moments of, I've done the workbook several times, and I've taught the workbook, which makes you really dive deep into the lesson. And still, I'm looking at this paragraph, hearing you read it. I'm like, wow, that's brand new.
Isn't it? I know, I'm the same way, Amy. I've read the Course at least a half a dozen times, and every day. And when these paragraphs come off and they imprint themselves into my excitement about what's happening, about what's being given to me, I'm going, oh, wow, look at what that is saying. I can use that. I can use that.
So we're doing this right now, Bill. Right now, the group of us is practicing coming nearer to the light in us today, right now. And right now, we're taking our wandering thoughts and gently bringing them back to where they fall in line with all the thoughts we share with God, which also might be described as using your spine as an antenna, so that your body is now in communication with the mind and not the physical world. And then we will not let these thoughts stray. We let the light within our minds direct the thoughts to come home. We have betrayed them, ordering that they depart from us. So that's sort of like the great rays, that we insisted on being separate from the great rays, which we are. But now we call them back and wash them clean of strange desires and disordered wishes. We restore to them the holiness of their inheritance, or our inheritance. And our inheritance is holiness and wholeness and peace and joy and love and being in the kingdom of God, heaven. Why wait for heaven? That's how you began.
Yeah.
Today, Bill, and that's where you left us last week, and that's where you are in your video blogging. Why wait for heaven when this is where we really live?
Yeah. And the way this paragraph's giving us just another entry point, another key to open the door, and the expansive light just blinding light just totally takes over.
My Sufi teachers used to do this practice with us because they're all about heart rhythm meditation, which comes from the Jesus prayer. We would tune into our hearts very profoundly because there's a depth to the heart and a height to the heart. There's a width to the heart and a breadth to the heart. There's this deep internal center of the heart. And as we did that through their meditative practices, there would come this shift where we realized that we were inside the cosmic heart. And then we are the cosmic heart. So first it felt like, oh, God is inside of me. That's very comforting. But then I am inside of God. Whoa, I am God.
Yeah.
The essence of everything is all the same. Sufism, they call it the universal religion of love that embraces all religions.
You just said something, I'm inside of God, and then I am God. And that could seem like blasphemy to some people. And it really says it all, though, because we are what I like saying, that we are what God is, because then I'm not being like ruler of the universe. I did come from a background that would say, "Oh, you said that?"
Yeah.
But I'm totally knowing that we are what God is, and we are God in expression. We are what God is in terms of there's nothing outside of us. And the way that there's nothing outside of us is because we are the totality of everything that is.
Exactly.
Because this is what God is.
I'm looking at that lesson now about being ruler of myself is ruler of the universe. That sets that concept straight, where it seems so conceited and grandiose, but actually lesson 253 does it from the other point of view.
Yes. I'm gonna give us a quick commercial break.
Oh yeah, the commercial.
Yeah, and we'll be right back. It's less than a minute, and we'll see you guys in a second. We'll be right back. This program is brought to you by the Teachers of God Foundation and Amy Torres, ACIM.com. Both of these organizations have programs to support you in the transformation and awakening experience. The Teachers of God Foundation has the 40-day program that is free, the Guide to 365, ACIM 365, and Living in Purpose 6-month mastery course. Amy Torres has her well-known Working the Workbook course, her new intuitive course, and she does private sessions by appointment. Thank you for joining with us today on this webinar. And now back to Bill and Amy.
Okay. So I also see...
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hey. Well, we did a commercial. We just did a quick commercial break. And now we think we'll just answer a few questions on the board, and then we'll get back into the content of 188. How about that?
Yeah, let's just see what people are saying. Okay, I got to, Nancy was saying that she wants to let go of the pattern of using anger to blow out the energy. And Nancy, I'd have to hear more from you about that, because the desire to let go of a pattern can be an ego trap as well. So I would just need, to have more of that understanding of what your story is there, or what your desire is. And you can write it in the chat if you like. We might get to it, or you can
Yeah.
email me. You can always email Bill or me, billfreeonline@gmail.com. Is that right, Bill?
Yep. Yep.
And I'm Amy Torres, ACIM @gmail.
Yep.
So, or
Yeah.
miracles at amytorresacim.com. Either one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And the thing is when you want to let go of the pattern of using anger. I mean, if you want to let go of anything, it shows up for you to let go of. So your request, ask and you shall receive. It's running 24/7, and your helper is going to show up with you to present you with that experience of anger. It's going to happen because you're the light, and the light wants to express itself. So anything that's not light wants to burp up, as Muji would say. And so you're going to find a messenger that's going to bring you the gift that's going to help you to see that. And then you can use the tools that we've been sharing with you of just being present, and it's okay if you blow up. We all do those things until we don't. And you're not guilty for doing it. And what happens to most course students and teachers is that you say, oh man, I'm not getting anywhere. Why am I still doing that? But you are making progress when you're making a statement on this chat board saying, I want to get rid of that. It's on its way out. So don't be surprised if somebody shows up as a messenger for you sooner than later, because this stuff happens real fast when you want to wake up, when you want to get rid of those obstacles to love's presence. Your messenger usually shows up right away. Right, Amy?
Mm. The funny thing is, yes and no. Sometimes they show up right away and we don't even notice that happened because we're so fixated on the problem. So then it can seem like time goes by before the next one shows up and we put two and two together. And other times it seems like we pray and pray and as if we're not being answered. So we have to trust that we are, but the answer is coming in a way that we're not recognizing. And I don't know why, but some conditionings are just far more deep-seated and seem to stubbornly hang on, whereas others evaporate right away. I've experienced both.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel that it happens so fast for me. I only need to have the thought, and it happens it could be an hour. It happens really fast. And something that I wouldn't even notice last year, just the slightest little thing is intolerable now. And I'm realizing, oh, wow, there's something that was hiding in there. And I just keep an eye on it. I just keep an awareness of the energy of the way something is reacting to this conversation. Something is reacting, like you and I had that little burp maybe 2 months ago, Amy, yeah. And something happened when we had some kind of disagreement of the two different courses that we were using. Mm-hmm. I was watching that residue, that thing come up, and we get there comes a place in your experience where light comes into the point where anything that's not light, it shows up pretty fast. And you just can't tolerate like listening to the things anymore. You can't tolerate talking about other people. You can't tolerate even listening to other people talk about other people, and you stop watching the news because you can't tolerate all of that. It's sort of an evolution of our experience of being light workers, being miracle workers.
Yeah. For a long, long time, I've had this language of love, harmony, and beauty inside of me. It's just a kind of synthesis of Sufi teachings and active listening and conflict negotiation and compassionate communication. And this is the book that I felt I'm supposed to write for so long. And these tools, when we use them, being self-responsible and yet having a language with which to express the things that are upsetting to us, it gives us the opportunity to talk about anything. Anything can be put on the table. And the feeling of safety and freedom that comes with that is amazing. So when Bill and I had our little spat and we negotiated through that, like boom, 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 done. It was the best feeling in the world. It builds trust. It's like a mathematical proof that indeed we are walking the walk and not just talking the talk. And I'm immensely grateful for the few times that we did have a little disruption, because it only made me feel safer and confirmed in the strength of vulnerability.
Yep.
And transparency. And, you know, I have a dear friend who's like a sister to me, and we can say things to each other that are outrageous. Things like, I don't know why, but we were probably talking about dying. And she said to me, "Oh, Aim, I can't wait till you die. And I can go through all your closets and take any of your clothes that I want." You know, and
that's a pretty close friend.
Yeah, super close. And when you learn that you can say things like that and that it's funny, it's amazing. Just amazing. Should we check the chat a little bit more?
Sure.
So let me just try and not miss anybody. Thank you, Ray, for sharing that your muses are Hafiz al-Shirazi and Sa'adi. And if you want to post a link with anything, you know, a poem or something from them, that would be great. Rosemary had said that whenever she talks with others about the course, she also gets that brand new feeling when sharing it.
Nice.
Also that there's no one out there. That's funny. Okay, now, thank you, Rosemary, for saying that you love the way we're weaving other spiritual practices into the course so we can apply them practically along the way, as well as the daily lessons. Priscilla says that she finds when she blows up so unpredictable, and that makes it even more scary. Yeah, you know, I would say notice if you're just acting out, if you've been repressing, and then like a pressure cooker, you blow, and then see if you can start to express yourself sooner so that you're not reaching that pressure cooker explosion. And on the other side of it, see if you can tolerate emotionality that, you know, that happens sometimes. And yeah, your adrenaline is going to kick in, your hands are going to shake, your body is going to be disturbed. And there's the observing. There's the awareness that sees it all and is unperturbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That
to me is that, well, that you just said what my go-to is that that's just the fast track of forgiveness. When you come into the place of recognizing that, just acknowledge that I am the light that is aware of this. I am is the awareness and the presence that's aware of this anger, of this thing that's occurring. And as you rest in that place of pure presence, as you rest in that place of awareness, and whatever is scary, whatever is being seen in that place is being washed by your own light. It's coming into this place of presence that you are, and you're inviting it to come back home. You're inviting it to come back into the place that it came from, which it really never left. You sort of said, sort of said, go away. And now you're saying, come back and be healed. You're part of me. And you acknowledge what you are first, and then you bring those residues, you bring those thought forms, you bring those wandering stray ideas and feelings and emotions, you just bring them all back into the resting place of pure awareness of what you are. and just welcome, just be with them. And at first it may be an emotion that you can't bring in yet, but just be aware of it at first. And then pretty soon it will soften and soften. And then you'll realize that it's just dissolving back into the nothingness that it came from. And this is what you are. This is our place. This is our function as the light of the world. This is our function as pure presence, as our beingness and our true identity that's shining in the light of truth. And this is you, and this is me. This is our inheritance. And you can feel it. You can actually feel and know the love of God that you are. So give yourself this gift as often as you can, as often as something is disturbing your peace in any way. Just allow this gentle light, this presence that you are, just to be at first, just to shine and be, and it shines on these emotions and these experiences, these beliefs. And in that shining, they come home. They come home, and now they're no longer separate from you, and there's no energy on them except the peace that you are. And you are at home.
That was a spontaneous Peace of God experience. And I felt myself straighten up, and a whole series of cracks went through my spine. So, you guys, if you're feeling any kind of cracking in your spine, if you're moved to twist a little or shake your head or feel a spontaneous movement or sound come out of you, that is what you could call Kundalini energy, or a cleansing of your antenna as you sat with Bill and he took us deeper and deeper into what is.
Mm. Well, I think we have come to the end of our show today, Amy. Thank you
for those of you who did not get your questions answered, just come back next week or email us.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining with us today. This is Pure Presence Live, and we love you sharing with you in this way, and we love your participation with us. This is Pure Presence, and you are the peace of God. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Namaste.
Namaste.